Hi, how's everybody feeling out there tonight? Pretty good? Your families feel good? How are your children, Mom? Are your children healthy? How are they doing? What do we see out there? What we're going to do tonight, and the purpose of this, is to explore man's innate intelligence. Man's the only living thing on the planet that's lost his innate intelligence. He's lost that ability to take care of himself. Parents have lost their ability to take care of their children. We are the only living thing on the planet that's lost that ability. Everywhere we go, we see children now getting sicker. We see people losing their health younger and younger. We're living as long. We're living 70, 80 years. But we're losing our health much younger. We're losing our health at 40, 30. Each generation is losing their health 20 years sooner than the generation before them. Children are now being born with diabetes. They're being born more deformed. We have wonderful medical systems and treatments and medications. We have all of these things. But where are we headed? Where are they leading us? Where are we going to end up? Where are we going to be in 3 generations from now? Where are your great-grandchildren going to be? Can you see what's happening? Can you feel what's going on here with each generation of health? We should be 80, 90 years old. We should be doing fine. If you ask anybody if they know somebody that's really sick, most people will actually say no. They'll think for a minute and they'll say, honestly, Ed, I can't think of anybody that I know that's really sick. If you ask them if they know anybody on medications, they'll say, everybody's on medications. Everybody I know is on medications. Well, the truth is that from the Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization, we find that 1 in 12 people on the planet have hepatitis C. That's 500 million people, folks. Roughly 1 in 3 people on the planet have some sort of cancer. Rates are much higher in the Western cultures, United States. Diabetes, 1 out of 2 people now is pretty much pre-diabetic. Heart disease, we're hearing that pretty much everybody now has congestive heart blockage. Children in autopsies at 5 years old are now, they're finding, when these children die in an accident or some other cause, when they do an autopsy, they're finding that they already have arterial blockages at 5 years old. So virtually at this point, everyone has a chronic degenerative disease going on in their body. What's chronic degenerative? Chronic, ongoing degenerative disease. They're degenerating. It's just that this body is so well designed that it takes 60, 70, 80 years for it to finally get to the point where it just can't help us anymore. So what do we have here tonight? What we have is essentially we have everything that man consumes. The federal government just allocated $500 million to find out why children are obese. That's $100 million a year for the next 5 years to find out why children are obese. And what do we expect to get back from that study? Are we going to get a solution to the problem? Or are we going to get each part of the medical profession grabbing a piece? We'll end up with a new drug. We'll end up with a new therapy. We'll end up with some new treatments. We'll end up with new psychology. But are we going to solve the problem? You see, for a $100 bill tonight, without the $100 bill, we're going to know the answer to that problem. But you already know the answer to that problem. Why aren't we getting it? What's stopping us from grasping this horrible outcome that we're seeing? There was a time when a nurse's station in a school was the room they couldn't use for anything else. It had a little desk and a little cot. Now it's like a triage unit. They have refrigerators, 2, 3 people on staff, cots lined up. Where are we headed? We have more technology to make us well, and yet we just kept getting bigger and bigger and sicker and sicker. And we're losing, once again, 20 years of health in each generation. Your great-grandparents were living far into their 80s and 90s. and everything that they put in their body was natural. Our grandparents were doing really well also, but our parents started to get into the TV dinners. We started to get into the synthetic foods. We started to get into the medications. And then the next generation, it was younger and more. Now, today, I got a call from an attorney that's somehow affiliated with the court system and the sheriff's department. And that attorney said to me, Ed, we're in crisis. The kids are being drugged at 6 and 7 years old. They're coming into the court system at 9 and 10. We're incarcerating them at 13 and 14. They're getting out at 18. They're fully medicated. And now they get out into the world, they commit a crime and go back to jail because they learned to be institutionalized. This isn't just happening to the abandoned kids. This is happening to your kids. This is what's going on. There are 6 things that are going to control our health or our lack of health. These are the only 6 things that we have control over. And what happens to us at this point, folks, is our responsibility. What we eat, what we drink, how we rest, how we exercise, what we breathe, and what goes on in our heads. What's my story? I have no degrees to teach you. I don't prescribe. I don't diagnose. But what I am is a guy that was given a message. I was a tar and gravel roofer when I was younger, and I ripped the old roofs in Boston, the old asbestos roofs. They were 30, 60 years old. They'd been roofed over many times. These weren't the shingle roofs. These were the flat ones. And I was one of a group of 450 men. And we'd rip these roofs, we'd breathe in the asbestos that was in there and all the other chemicals, the mold, just everything. There were things in there that we didn't know what they were. Nobody knew what they were. These buildings were tanneries. They had changed. They were warehouses. And the 450 guys started to get sick. Not all at once, but over a period of time. And I watched roughly 300 men die. I watched what happened. I watched the process that they went through. The federal government finally came in, started testing everybody, and said, you're pretty much all going to die. And they put a number on that of about 22 years. And that asbestos was going to get into the lungs. You couldn't get it out. It was going to cross over. It was going to get into the heart. We ate it. We breathed it. It was like working in a vacuum cleaner bag. And I watched those guys as they started to get sick. And I was a little younger than most of them. And one of the first things I noticed was when they were diagnosed. When they got diagnosed, within about 2 weeks, these guys looked like they aged another 15 to 20 years. Just the diagnosis by itself just depressed their whole body, because man is not designed to know when or how he's going to die. What we're experiencing today is not something that man was ever meant to experience. Man was designed to live his life. His body was designed to take care of itself. It's a self-healing body. And we were designed to go to sleep one night and just never wake up. But it's rare today that we see that happen. It's very rare that you hear about old Charlie, he passed away. Gee, I was with him last week. He was doing great. He was doing his garden. Yeah, he passed away. We don't hear that anymore. We see Charlie go through a progression where he loses his health, loses his mobility, and his body slowly disintegrates until we're surprised Charlie's alive. That's the way we're living today. And it's happening younger and younger. So what I have here today, as I said, is I have everything that man consumes. What we breathe, how we breathe, what we drink, what we eat, what our children are eating, how we rest, how we exercise. And we're going to go through a theater. This is the message that I received within what I feel was probably an hour of my death. And that's the purpose of this today. And that's why I was sent back from that to deliver this message. I tried delivering it to my friends at the union. Nobody wanted to hear it, and I watched them all die. I tried delivering it to my own friends, and they didn't want to hear it, and I watched them deteriorate. I went to my church and I tried to deliver it. Not only my church, I went to many churches. And nobody wanted to hear it. I could never get in the door with the message. And yet I watched all those people go the same way. And I couldn't understand how other people couldn't see this. And I struggled and I struggled. Then I became a specialized foster parent after I ended up getting well as a result of this theatrical experience I'm going to take you through now. And for 11 years, I took kids out of hospitals, mental institutions, and I got the same results I got. And so today, I want to try to give that message to you. I want to try to pass this on to you. I may be wrong. It's up to you to decide. But I want to take you through this typical family's life. We've got a father, the daughter, Mom. These three people look like pretty much people we know. And then we have Aunt Rose over here. And this is the way we're living. This is the way our lives are ending up. This is the end result of what we do to ourselves. Every night we watch the TV. We go from channel to channel and we go by all these things. Everybody's trying to sell you something to improve your health. We've heard so much that we don't know what to believe anymore, so we just shut it all off. And we feel, I'm going to die anyway, something's going to get me, the heck with it, let me just have fun doing it. But then, when we're told, when we feel that lump or we feel that thing in us, we don't have that feeling anymore. We don't have that feeling. You know, you're a Christian and you're saying, well, you know, God's in control and you know, whatever God wants will happen. But then when you get the lump, 3 weeks later, you're looking for prayer that to guide the surgeon's hand. We're not taking any responsibility for what we're doing to ourselves. And that's what this is about, because ultimately, whether you end up in that bed or you end up living the fullness of your life, being able to be the grandmother you were designed to be, the father you were designed to be, the child you were designed to be, is up to you. It's not in the hands of some doctor who's going to prescribe or cut or burn you. That's not his responsibility. It's your responsibility, and you're the only one that's going to get the end result of that. It's a lonely feeling. When I was told that I had the problems in my lung as a result of the asbestos, that was a lonely feeling. There was nobody there with me at that moment. Yeah, there were people to share my pain, but I was still alone in that. And when you start to feel that heart attack or that stroke coming on, you know, at that moment, you pray, you wish you'd done it differently. What is it that stops us from doing this? What is it? What is the spell that we're under that we can't control? We wake up in the morning and we say, I'm going to quit smoking, or I'm going to quit eating donuts or coffee or whatever it is, and within 3 hours, we're struggling to keep this hand from bringing this cigarette or this coffee to our mouth. It's like a science fiction movie, that something's gotten inside of us and we have no control over it. Today, we're going to explore that. We're going to have some fun with it, though. This is not a depressing dream or message that I had. What I was given in the middle of the night was a dream, and then I went on and I did some studying, and it got me well. And it got the kids well that came to my house. And it got my friends well, the ones that listened. And the ones that got it seemed to really run with it. And the ones that didn't seemed to get sicker and sicker and sicker. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this family's life. We're going to spend a day with them. You can, in your own mind, you can think of it as a week, a month, a lifetime. But we're going to experience what they experience. And we're going to experience this theatrical experience of what actually happens to us. And we start out with just kind of going through their day. And how we live our life. How do we actually start our day? What do we do? In most cases, Dad leaves the house and heads out to work. And if you've been to one of the donut shops, the drive-in window in the morning is really busy. So he's getting his pastries in the morning. Now, mind you, everything we're doing here is what we're putting into our body. That's what this is. This is to wake up the intelligence in all of the cells. You see, when we see a new baby, or we see a puppy, or we get a letter from the IRS, we feel that throughout our entire body. There's a communication, or if we're told we're going to die, every cell in our body hears, sees, and feels that experience. The goal of this is to get every cell in your body to hear, feel, and experience this to the point where those cells, roughly 80 trillion cells in your body, will start to work and communicate together. You see, they have to communicate with each other. Because if they didn't, we'd fall over when we get out of a chair. There are so many things that happen all the time with our cells. They're trying to protect us 100% of the time. If we go to slip, our body will go into some manipulative dance to try to keep us standing. But if the body realizes that we're going to fall, the body will sacrifice the hand to protect the head. You'll break your wrist to protect your head. So your body will never make a mistake. So why are we so sick? If our bodies can't make a mistake, why are we sick? What is it that's going on? The advertising industry has a word called abracadabra. We've all heard it, the magician's act. Make something disappear, make something appear. Well, the advertising industry, their use of the word abracadabra is that you make it, we can sell it. We can mess with their innate intelligence to the degree where they're so confused, we can make them buy and do pretty much anything. So today we're going to try to undo that. I call it abracadabra, the undoing of the magic that they do. There's no hocus pocus here, folks. This is just simply a presentation. We start the day with the coffee, but other people start their day different. You see, man is the only living thing that puts such a variety into his body. Some people start with cereal. Children, adults. And we go on from there, and we throw in right out of the cow's belly. But I just want to remind you that everything we put into our body today is what our body is going to have to use tonight when we go to sleep to prepare our body for tomorrow. Our heart never stops beating. Our blood never just goes cold and then warms up again. Our body never stops functioning from the time we're born until the time we die. And yet, we treat it as though we're not subject to any natural law at all. We're totally immune. People get up, the kids drink their junkie juice. Now, let's get this open. And we just throw it in. And our body has to find stuff in all these things that we put into our body to keep us, to prepare us for the next day. We have to process sight, sound, thinking. Some people like English muffins. Now the stores are making pre-done pancakes and waffles and all kinds of things. It's getting, each generation we're getting more and more of it. Along with all of that, we have to have our syrup. And we just keep going, you know. Meanwhile, Dad's on the job. Mom's going out shopping. So she's feeding with her coupons. We feed our family 10 for 10. Whatever the coupon package says, 3 for 5. Buy one, get one free. That's how moms are making the decision to feed, and mom loves her family. See, it's not mom's fault. We've been misled. We've been so misled about how to take care of this body. And this body has survived in spite of that. Some people for breakfast have their eggs, their bacon. This is what they're putting into their body. Then somebody else, and I was one, me and my roommate, I mean, we would just eat whatever we had around. We would just throw it in. I'd have this for breakfast. Hit the job site. I'd have off the canteen truck something that was in there. And I expected my body to stay in health. And the thing is, it did. For many, many years, I was a rugged guy. I was in absolute health. But as we go through this progression, as we keep doing this, we're just not stopping. We're having lunch, and we're throwing this in. The kids are going to school with a peanut butter and jelly, or in my case, it used to be a bologna sandwich. The soda, I was in a restaurant yesterday, and every kid in there was just pouring down soda. There were so many brands represented. I just listened as each family ordered. And the parents were in there with their kids, and they had no clue what they were. At one table, they were drinking the soda. At another table, the kid was there having his fries. Another one was having onion rings. And this is what we put in. We just do this. And the body functions for so well, we believe, hey, it's okay. Meanwhile, mom's out doing more with her coupons. And she just keeps buying and buying and buying. And we just keep going. We just don't get it. Later on, we're running around and we end up, Dad's stopping for more coffee. He's throwing this in. The kid, on the other hand, is stopping. She's getting her funny foods in the drive-thru. And we just keep going. But, I want to show you something. I want to show you part of the result of that. This newspaper is one of the most powerful newspapers on the planet. And the front page, which is blocked out, is about a 33-year-old woman who's cancer-free. She has no cancer in her body, and yet she's contemplating a full mastectomy. Now, when I was a child, they took out your appendix, they took out your tonsils. If you went to the hospital for anything, you were coming out missing a few parts. Adenoids. But back then, they weren't suggesting that 33-year-old women have their breasts removed as preventative medicine. This is the headline in this paper. This is, as I say, one of the most powerful papers on the planet. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about the paper. I'm just saying that a lot of people had to sit down and think about this because we have a presidential election going on. And this woman found the front center page above the fold, as they call it. Is this relative time-wise? What we're doing here today, is it relevant to our lives? Well, this is a Sunday paper from a couple of weeks ago. And once again, front page, Sunday paper, above what they call the fold. And it says, coping with Alzheimer's. Got headlines over the presidential candidates. Another one, daily, has to do with a couple that can no longer afford their cancer medications. These are all front page articles. So where are we headed? Who's in charge here? Are we in charge? Is the medical profession, is it working? Is it happening? Why would the first thing that we choose to do when this body finally has a problem, why would our first choice be to get radiated, burned, heavy medications, and surgeries? Why would we do that? We must not have any faith at all in the things that God provided us. We really are lost. The church is really lost because the church doesn't believe this either. And if the church doesn't believe it, and the medical profession doesn't believe it, the supermarkets are just empty buildings that sell us stuff. They put things on the shelves, and if it sells, it stays. That depends on the abracadabra, how good they are at selling it. The health food stores are just going along. They put in a better package, better oil, a nicer grain, organic. And they sell it to us. So what we get in the health food store essentially is, if we go to the supermarket, we throw this into our body. And if we go to the health food store, we get in a prettier package. But if we're trying to heal a body, if we're trying to minimize a disease in our body, whether it's Lyme disease, Alzheimer's, whatever it may be, this isn't going to happen. I saw a woman, they brought her in, the two daughters brought her into the restaurant yesterday. She had the walker. They sat her down. They got her a coffee. Then they got her some sort of other chocolate cake or something. And one daughter's over trying to talk into her ear. They were adjusting her earpiece. I mean, it was an absolute, it was horrible. But if I'd have said something, I wanted to say something. See, when I go out, this is my opportunity to say something. Because when I go out, I want to say something. I want to say to somebody, you realize what you're giving your kid? Do you realize what you're putting in their body? But if I say it then, they'll get angry at me. But if I say it now, they can't get to me, so it's okay. But we just continue on. So we throw it in. You know, we just keep going and going. Pastries. This is our idea of fruit. Lemon, raspberry, wheat. This is what we do. And we do more of it. And while we're doing that, all of a sudden, and this is where I want to go through the whole process of what we do, now we start with these things that we call over-the-counter. So with the over-the-counter, we've got, after years and years now of doing this, we have Dad, who's got gas, so he takes something so he doesn't have any more gas, so he's all set. Mom is taking an anti-diarrhea now, and the daughter is taking a stool softener. And what do? We throw this in for lunch. We love the cheese. We go to the church thing and we have the burgers. And we just keep going with this. Just keep going. Now what happens? Mom can't stay awake anymore. Her body's not charging itself overnight, so she's got to get something to stay awake. Dad's got to use something to go to sleep. More anti-gas pills. Now finally, something stops. Every family has this, pretty much. Just in case things don't work at all, you got to have an enema around the house for 2 o'clock in the morning because there's no place you can get it. So now we're doing this, but we're not stopping. We're not thinking. We just keep going and going and going, and it's getting worse. A lot of people like their ice cream late at night, so they throw this in. And Mom keeps doing her shopping. The canned goods, the 10 for 10 canned goods, they keep going in the body. Now, the body has no choice but to find things in here that it can use to keep us alive. And that's what's so amazing about the body. The average person, this is what they'll throw in a jar of mayonnaise a week between everything they're having. They'll just keep throwing this in, giving it to the children, doesn't really matter. Kids are coming home, they're being put on Ritalin. Teachers are saying, Joey can't study, he can't concentrate. Well, of course he can't concentrate. Look what he's putting in. So we just keep going and going and going. Now all of a sudden the body's getting worse. Now we got water pills. So all of this stuff in over-the-counter, these people aren't lying to you. They're telling you the truth. They're not making health claims. They're just saying, you put it in, we got something that'll get it out. We got something that'll get it through your body. We can clean your colon. We can make you sleep. We can keep you awake. We got laxatives. You get a surgery and your body can't make new skin. We got something that'll help to do that. But if you have to have surgery or something and your body has to make new skin, it can only make new skin out of what you put in. That's what we do. We put things in our body that make things. Everything we do. Then we talk about supplementation. I take a vitamin. Everything you do is supplementation. We're not like a tree. We can move freely. This is one of the gifts that God gave us. We're not rooted to the ground. What do we think we're going to use to rebuild these cells? We're rebuilding millions of cells every hour. Your whole life, your body's rebuilding cells, but it's got to look through what we put in to rebuild those cells. And we just go, and we don't stop. We keep going and going. And now, more coffee. And then, I gotta share something with you. If you're going to eat this stuff, okay? If you're going to eat this stuff, you got to understand it. We eat more grease than anything on the planet. And you got to learn about grease. You really do. All right? This is just a quick class on grease, okay? Because you really ought to know about it. Now, I go out behind restaurants in the middle of the night, and I made a little pump, and I can get the grease out of the grease pit behind the restaurant. And so there's a lot of different types of grease. Now, this is grease that comes from a place that makes French fries and chicken, okay? It's a thick grease, okay? This will stay. You get this in the colon. That's probably what keeps us alive, is that our body can't absorb any of that because this is lying in the colon. Now, this is grease from Chinese restaurant. It's a thicker grease. Well, it's not thicker, actually. It's more like a molasses, okay? And then this is grease from the pizza place. All right? So Dad stops for pizza, and the daughter goes for the fried French fries, and Mom, she's going out for Chinese food with her girlfriends, one in a club. So she's throwing all that in her body. Then she goes home, and she makes supper, because her family likes pasta. And once again, and this is something that I need to stop and share with you folks, we're headed for some really troubled economic times. We hear it every day, and we all know it's coming. And that puts us in a position where we're going to have to make some choices. We've got family. We've got children. The food industry is going to respond to this. And they're going to respond to it by making you feel that they're providing you with good bargains to help you feed your family. So you're going to see the coupons, they're going to come out. The markets are going to try to draw your business because money's going to be tighter, and they're going to want to show you that they can help give you more. And what does that mean? That means you're going to find more of this going into the children. You're going to find more of this going into the adults because we now have to think different about our food dollar. When I was selling real estate, this is what the average refrigerator looked like. When you pulled open the fruit bin, there were a few things in there. If you ask people how they eat, most people will try to tell you they eat healthy. But the reality is when you go into the house, this is what you find. You see this everywhere. And we're just not, because it's not the way we're eating. We're not eating any kind of a healthy diet. Children. A young girl gets pregnant, and she's going to make one of these. These are pretty complicated. You can't make a healthy baby out of this. It's a miracle that the babies are being born as healthy as they are today. But when you take an adult, how many times do you hear of people, and can I get a close-up of this? How many times, everybody we know, this is not meant to be messed with. This is not meant to have somebody's hands going in here and starting to work on this and remove our colon, our large colon, our stomach, our liver, our kidneys. Now, in my case, they wanted to rip all this out because I had the chest wall. I had so much asbestos in there. But folks, we need all the stuff that's in here. There's no extra stuff in here. We need every bit of this. But how can a body make another human being inside of itself that's going to be healthy, that's going to be emotionally healthy, that's going to be physically healthy? See, we have a lot of stuff that our body has to do. It has to create healthy emotions. Kids are becoming less human today. They're killing each other. They're killing they're walking into colleges and they're shooting people. We're trying to figure out what are the causes of these things. There are only 6 things: what we eat, what we drink, how we rest, how we exercise, what we breathe, and what goes on in our head. And those things work together. You can't leave any one of those things out. You can't do 5 of them and never sleep and expect to be healthy. You can't do 5 and never exercise and expect to be healthy. You can't do all the 5 physical things for your body and let your emotional, your spiritual life not be addressed and be healthy. You can't do this. Unfortunately, the church still believes that you can ignore all of those things, and I think that's going to change. And one of the things I'm hoping to accomplish today is to help that change. You see, we have to stop criticizing that person that's in our group. That person may be a messenger also. That person that's in your church, that person that's in your workplace, that's trying to deliver that message of health. That person may actually be a messenger also. It took me getting all the way to the end to get the message. You know, and we don't stop. We just keep going. We just throw it in. Anything we want goes in the body. We keep doing it, and the kids gelatin. Moms will make it and just feed the kids because, you know, it's funny. We go to the church thing or any kind of a cookout, and the mom that makes the gooeyest, they got lemon on the bottom and cake on it, and they got artificial frosting or some sort of a whip, and then they got cookies or brownies or something on the top, and that's best mom because the kids run to that, and she feels like, well, I really did a good thing because look at the kids. Look at they ate that. Well, that discourages the other mom that made a fruit platter. Why would she bring the fruit platter when the kids don't eat it? Why would we continue to buy produce when we don't eat it, when we leave it in the pan? Because we're addicted to this. We're not addicted to fruits. We're not addicted to vegetables, although they are unnaturally right foods. So we keep going. Now we're sicker, and somebody tells us that we need a vitamin or a mineral. That's our problem. So mom, God love her, runs down, and she goes to the health food store, and you got that kid that couldn't get a job anywhere else. He read a couple of books, and now he's going to start because they want to do this, and they think that maybe they're shot. Dad needs some sal palmetto for his prostate. That's his whole problem. Got nothing to do with this. He doesn't believe it's got anything to do with this. It's only got to do with the fact that he was lacking that vitamin or that mineral. So we take this body that we first of all let the supermarket sell us their junk, and now we take it to the over-the-counter because we want to get rid of the symptom. That doesn't work. Now we're getting nervous, so we go to the health food store because we want to take this complicated body. See, our bodies are very complicated by design, but simple by function. We were designed to heal. We were designed to be maintenance-free. But in order for all of these people to sell us what they have to make us not believe that. So there's a relationship here. There's a relationship between the selling of this and the selling of this, and then we go the next step, and now, before you know it, the daughter, because they continue to do it, 3 times a day is putting a needle in herself for the rest of her life. You see, because you're never told, medications, you're not told they're going to heal you. See, there's nothing that this stuff does to heal you. Dad is on medications now. Mom is adding pills to her diet. And what is it in here that you think is going to heal you? These are not designed to heal you. There's nothing. These aren't nutrients. These aren't vitamins. And what do we know about nutrients and vitamins? We discovered another one, vitamin K. So what do? We take vitamin K from something and we synthesize it, make it synthetic, and now we sell it like it's a new health wonder. Every time we find a new vitamin, it's a new thing, and it's going to help with all these diseases. But where do all the vitamins that we've discovered so far, where do they come from? Fruits and vegetables. That's where they come from. They're all coming from here. Every time we hear of a new medication, we end up 3 years later hearing about the horror stories that are the result of it. We've never heard of horror stories coming from beets. Oh, somebody didn't wash their hands and there was, but that gets major publication if somebody gets sick from a carrot. Hundreds of thousands of people are losing their freedom because of these medications. I'm not saying that we don't need the medical profession. We do need the medical profession. I'm not saying that there isn't sometimes a use for these in a crisis situation. But what we have to stop doing is relying on these, thinking that they're going to give us some form of health. They will temporarily take care of a symptom, but they'll do that at the expense of a greater problem down the road. You're never going to get this to be better than this. It's just not going to happen. So folks, what do we do in this progression? We're throwing this stuff in. We just keep doing it. We don't stop. And now we decide we're going to improve because, you see, we thought this was our problem. We thought our problem now was what we're reading here. And Dad is having his cigarettes. So we thought that was our problem. So now we're going to solve the problem. And Mom says, well, we're going to transition. We're going to start eating better. Not to mention the rum and the bourbon and the whole thing that we throw in. So we're going to eat better. So Mom, because she really does care about her family, decides she's going to start buying things at the health food store. So now she's going to pay more money, and this is going to become a problem because Mom's not going to have that additional money because of these economic times that we're coming into. But even if she did, most of this stuff is really no better than what you're getting at the supermarket. There's no life in it. It's absolutely, totally dead. So we're going to end up down the road like Aunt Rose over here. You see, this once again is innate intelligence. Let me share something about innate intelligence. There was a time when if you went into a hospital, you would have found an ashtray at the nurse's station. You would have found a cigarette machine downstairs. Now, if you saw that today, you'd say, wait a minute, there's something that doesn't make sense here. Yet for years, that was okay. That made sense. I had somebody come to one of my talks who was shaking her head. She was a lady. She was in the audience. And she wanted me to call on her. And she said, I was a surgical nurse, and I used to put the doctor's cigar out in the operating room. Where'd that come from? But that's innate intelligence. You see, if you saw it today, you'd say, that's not right. There was a time not so long ago when you'd see the mom going down the road in a van, and she'd have 3, 4 kids in the back. Nobody's in a seatbelt. One brother's holding the other brother by the legs, and he's trying to grab leaves off trees or whacking antennas or something. The windows are down, and nobody paid any attention. If you saw that today, you'd pull over. You'd call the police on your cell phone. That woman would end up with the Department of Social Services in her life because she didn't take care of her children properly. My goal is to wake up your innate intelligence. You see, Now our innate intelligence is woken up to those things, and yet here our innate intelligence is completely asleep, just like it was when we had cigarette machines in hospitals. My goal is to make it embarrassing for a mother to go to the checkout counter with this stuff in her cart. I want her to feel that people are looking at her like she's doing something wrong. Because if we don't put this stuff in our cart, we're not going to put it in our bodies. And if we stop putting it in our bodies, we're going to start to change our health. We're going to start to change what happens to us. And isn't this pretty much what the checkout aisle looks like when you're in there? Start to look. See if there's any food in any basket. And then take a look at the people. You'll start to see the problem and just look in the basket, and that's what they have. Because we form long-term habits with food, and yet at the same time we do transitional diets throughout our life. We do both. Teenagers transition into smoking cigarettes, many of them. We transition into, pizza, subs. But your children, for the first maybe 12 years of their life, are your responsibility. And most of these children don't have a clue. They think this is okay because this is what they're being taught. And now what happens? Let's your heart has got to pump all this stuff endlessly through over pretty much 65,000 miles of arteries, veins, and capillaries. These things get small, very, very tiny. And we have to pump this through. And while we're doing that, after years and years of doing this, finally, our stomach doesn't get a break. It doesn't get a rest. And our colon doesn't get a rest. So we're putting this through, and we're wondering why we're not healing. We're bleeding in our stomach. We're throwing all kinds of other things in, aspirin and whatnot, that causes a hemorrhage in the stomach, a little one. And we're just throwing this in, and we're doing it endlessly. And then we're throwing more of this in, and we just get relentless. We get absolutely relentless. We want the fried foods. We want to throw in fried. We love the fried chicken. The pastas. This is, it's amazing. And I had a garden center. And there's a measurement that doctors learn about. And once they learn about it, they never use it again. If you were to go to a medical school and you were to look into Guyton's Book of Physiology, the one the doctors use, it says the most important measurement in the human body concerns the pH of the blood. The pH of the blood has to be roughly 7.365. Now, what is pH? pH is, when I had a garden center, I'd have people come into the garden center, and everybody came in, they knew all about pH. It had to do with their lawn, their tomato plants, their roses. They wanted a different pH for each one of those things. So the pH scale, they knew pH had to do with the health of those plants. You see, the truth is that every living thing on the planet functions on pH. Every animal, every plant, every algae. It's kind of the secret to life. That's why it's the most important measurement in the human body. What is pH? pH, we're like an aquarium. Things live in us. Blood carries things to places in our body. Our body can't heal if the blood's not getting there. But the pH is so important. To give you an idea of the pH, a totally acid pH would be 0. That's one extreme end of the scale. The other extreme end of the scale would be totally alkaline. And that would be a pH of 14. So everything that lives between a 0 pH and a pH of 14. Now, human blood has to be 7.365, which is just over. 7 would be neutral. We're slightly alkaline. Just a bit. Now, everything we do creates acid in our body. Every time we hate, we create acid. Every time we don't forgive, we create acid. Everything and every function that we do, whether it's exercise, digesting food, it creates acid. That's how our body functions. So if we're creating acid, then we have to put alkaline in to keep the body alkalized. So the foods that go in, the thoughts that go in, what we breathe, what we eat, what we drink, we heal when we rest. All of these things, the purpose of them is to get the cells ready for tomorrow, to alkalize those cells. And if our body is dealing with this crisis, we can't heal. We can't expect to heal. We can put all the medication we want to put in, but we're not going to heal. Everything in this tank has an alkalinity of between 2 and 5. Some of it even lower. So if we're doing this and we're pumping it with this heart, we're going to end up like her. Because her body survived for all those years. And now she lays in bed on oxygen because she can't breathe, her lungs can't work anymore. See, what happens to us, and what happened to me, was when I had this situation, my wife was sick. She was pretty much in bed 22 hours a day, in that hospital bed much of the time. And we just kept going along too, just like everybody else. And we were looking for an answer. And we reached a point where I knew I didn't have but a very short time to live. And there's people out there like this. And I want to address you. I want to give you hope. Because we had lost ours. Our hope was gone. She was in chronic pain. The medical profession couldn't do anything to help her. I had my lungs were getting to the point where I had to set alarm clocks for the night, wake up, clear my lungs. I thought I was going to drown every time I went to sleep. I had a tumor in the testicles, lots of pain in the lymph, was having a hard time swallowing. And we used to travel we had a camper on the back of a pickup truck. We went from one doctor to another. That was our life. And we'd try to see this next best doctor. But nobody ever talked to us about pH. Nobody ever talked to us about what we were doing to ourselves. But everybody had something else that they could offer us to try to bring us to health. And none of it worked. So finally, knowing that my life was pretty much over, and she was in such chronic pain, we decided to bring things to an end. And I know there's people out there like this, that you've lost all hope. The medical has just taken over your life. There's nothing left. And you don't know what to do. She decided that she was going to take the medications, and I was going to finish things in the morning, whatever wasn't finished, and do it to myself. But you have to understand, we were insane. We were no longer sane at that point. Our life was just gone. It was over. It was done. And in the middle of the night, with the medication she had taken, and I'm saying this because I want you to know where this message came from. And I want you to know why I'm standing here doing what I'm doing today. It was the middle of the night. It was 2:30 in the morning. And I could hear her body. It was no longer responsive. It was just gurgling. The medications had taken over. And she was pretty much dying, and that was the point. We tried it one night, didn't work, so now we're on the second night trying it. And I made peace with God. I was in tears, and I was tired, and but it was no more. I couldn't take any more. We just couldn't take any more. And I made my peace, and as I was going to sleep, a peace came over me, and I knew what to do. As I was falling asleep, it's hard to explain, but that's what this dream is. I was falling asleep, and it was as though it was coming into me. And I feel it was God coming into me. And I knew what to do, but then in another sense, I knew it was too late because things were over. She had already taken all the medications. In the morning, I went to sleep, and in the morning, she was awake, unaffected by the overdoses of medications, and said, I want to live. And I knew what to do. I knew then what to do. And we did that. And she got well. And I got well. And I got well quickly because I got this out. I stopped putting this in. I got this out. And I started to put the stuff in that I was supposed to put in. Years later, after being in health for many years, she went back to this. And it ended up taking her life. So what I'm here to do today is to try to pass this message on to you. We think that we can heal this body. And here's what we do. This amazes me. We're doing all this stuff. And this is how bad we are with this. We'll take this phenomenal body that's kept us alive. Health is a luxury, not a necessity. You can't start to heal. Your body has to find things in here to keep you alive. We can't start to heal till we put in good stuff, because if we're dealing with a medical crisis from what we're putting in, how can we heal that diabetes? How can we heal that Alzheimer's? How can we heal that accident? See, I had a brain injury also from an accident. When I was taking her to a doctor, a truck ran over the car we were in. I had a closed head injury, contra coup, went to a brain injury rehab. I was an outpatient. And they said that I couldn't heal the brain injury. And I couldn't heal the brain injury if I did what they wanted me to do. The other 27 people that were going through there with me did this, and they didn't heal their brain injuries. But my brain injury, I still have some. I still have asbestos in me. I have enough asbestos in me to kill this town. But it's not going to take my life because this isn't what I'm putting in. But what do? We get something in the refrigerator because we're hungry. We open the door and we look at this and we can't remember when we put it in. But we're looking at it and we're trying to think, is this a week old? And we start looking for something in here that we recognize because we're trying to place a date on this. Is it still good or isn't it? And then we look at the top to see if there's anything growing on it. And if there's nothing growing on the top of this, we take it and we throw that in too. And then it goes in, we use the microwave to put it, to warm it up. Every mom today will tell you that she can't live without this. Her family's food goes into this, especially with the children. It's quick, it's easy, it seems to work, it does heat the food. This detects microwave leaks. When you sell a house, and I sold houses for a while, home inspector would come in if it was a built-in microwave, and he would test the microwave with this. And he'd say, if the microwave leaks, this is going to make a noise, or the needle's going to go up. And he'd put a cup of water in the microwave, and the parents would stand back with holding their children. And I never saw one leak, but I was amazed. Because this young couple watched this guy and heard him say that if that thing leaks, it's dangerous. And it doesn't leak, but they're going to put their children's food in there, cook it, and put it into their kids. That's innate intelligence. That it's okay if we put our food in, but it's not okay if it leaks out. Doesn't make any sense. The microwave shakes the molecules of the food, it disrupts them, and now we're putting in what was probably junk to begin with, and now we're making it worse, and we're putting it in. We have no limit. We'll do absolutely anything to food. So now we've gone through this progression, and now we're pretty much up to here, and now we have the new things. When we talk about where we're headed, we have these things, these quick lunches for kids. Before you give your kid one of those, they're getting more space. Everybody says I don't use them, but every month they're getting more space, and they wouldn't be getting it unless they're selling. Buy one of those. They're about $3. Buy one, open it up, and see if you'd eat it. The kids will eat it because they don't know any better. But every time I do a talk and I offer for a parent to eat one of those quick lunch things, I can't find a parent that'll eat one. I have never found a parent that'll say, yeah, I'd eat that. So, where are we headed? What are we doing? You know, we look to the latest medical technologies. 25 years ago, this is a book from this was the Invalids Hotel in New York. And this was a state-of-the-art medical facility. If you were to look at the things that they used in here to treat people today, you'd say that was barbaric, that made no sense at all. Because, you see, we're looking at it 50 years later, 60 years later. But if you were alive then, and you looked at a book that was from 50 years earlier, those people would have said the same thing. 50 years from now, when someone picks up a book and sees what we're doing today, they're going to say those people are nuts. See, we haven't changed anything. We've actually gotten worse. We've gotten worse in what we do. We've gotten worse in how we handle things. But innate intelligence, once again, is part of this whole problem. It's not that these are bad moms. It's just that their innate intelligence has been put to sleep. This is a box of artificial sweetener. But it's got fruit. We've covered it up. But this fruit, they put fruit on the label. You see, the food industry, with their abracadabra, has realized if we put fruit on the cover of the box, people will buy it. There's no fruit in this box. But we buy fruit. We know instinctively that fruit is part of our naturally right diet. But we've been put to sleep by it, and we get addicted. But we just go, again, from one thing to another. We're bombarded endlessly. It's so difficult not to get addicted. We have, you know, all of these things, these people that come around. This one's the cookies are coming. You know, and there's different groups. Every 6 weeks, children are getting hit with something. We have, you know, we've got Easter, and we've got, let me put this back here. We've got Halloween. We've got Christmas. We've got Thanksgiving. And we're shocking this. We're just putting in huge amounts of these things into the body. And Dad has to put, never mind the alcohol, he's got to put his beer in. And then, let me show you, I want to show you how this all works in the body. And it's, you know, we put this in, and it has to go through our colon. And so what we're doing, and I want you to feel your innate intelligence go to work a little bit. Okay? Because we have to put all of this stuff into the body, and the body has to liquefy it. It's okay, just bring it out. And, okay. The body has to liquefy this. So what we're doing in our stomach is we have 3 sets of muscles. They have to chop all this stuff up. Now it turns into what's called chyme. Oops. Oh. Chinese. Okay. This is lunch. There you go. Thank you. So while we're doing this, excuse me, it's lunchtime. While we're doing this, we just throw. See, somebody says something, you want to eat, and we just go for it. And we'll throw the chemicals in. We'll stop at nothing. Okay? We'll have the grease from the Chinese food, like I said. And we will just throw this all in. Now, somehow, this is a good representation of what people are eating out there. Take a look in the shopping carts. You see, if I do a good job, your innate intelligence is going to begin to look in other carts, and this whole thing is going to grow on you. You're going to think about your situation. You're going to think about it while you're in the supermarket. You're going to think about it when your friends tell you how sick they are. You're going to keep seeing this over and over and over again in your mind. And you're going to realize this is what we're putting in. How could we expect this body to even begin to heal? And this is what your stomach has to do. It has to make it liquid. And it has to turn it to a 7.365 pH as it goes through the liver and is sent out through the red blood cells. And it takes a long time because it has to be liquefied. And this is what we're putting in. And we do this relentlessly. We do not stop. We just eat this stuff. And we're expecting somehow that we're going to heal the body. You're expecting that your children are going to be able to sit in a seat in a classroom. In 11 years as a specialized foster parent, I took the kids that couldn't make it in other homes. They came to my house from mental institutions. I took a kid that was in a mental institution on a lot of medications. He came to the house. He was homicidal and suicidal. Within 6 months, see, they come to the house and they'd wait to hear the stove go on and the pans rattle, and they didn't hear it. So then they'd start to pick up some of the fruit and stuff. And in 6 months, he was off all medications. He went on, he got his GED, and he lives in the community today. I took another kid. He was living in a locked unit in the hospital. He had emotional problems. That's why he was in a locked unit. He had diabetes. He had Addison's disease, and he lived in the hospital. That was home, at one of the premier children's hospitals in this country. He was also treated at one of the premier diabetes hospitals in this country, both at the same time. This kid came to my house, and within, look at this, this is something. Within a couple of months, that same kid was not only able to live out of the hospital, but he was able to ride a bicycle for 25 miles. And he lives in the community today. Not one kid left my house in 11 years on a neuropsychotropic medication. Those are the mind-altering medications that they're giving all these kids. Not one kid. And you know, I never had anybody call me up and say, good job. I got called and I had to defend my job every time this happened. Every time a kid got off. You see, but the same thing happened to me when they found me through my Social Security number and said, we want to know what you did over the asbestos. And they had doctors, and there was a university involved, and they were going to call me at a certain time at night, and they did. And they said, what treatments did you use? Because everybody with what you had dies within 3 to 6 months typically. And when I told them I didn't have any treatments, they were amazed, and they really didn't know what to do at that point. And I was going to go on and tell them what I did, because that was the purpose of the call. And as soon as I started to tell them what I did, they said, we're done, thank you. And that was the end of that conversation. See, they didn't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear any of this. You may be out there, you may not want to hear it. That's your future. That's your future over there in that bed if you don't want to hear it. Because the end result of all of this, without change, is that. This, with change, is backing off and working your way to health. And only you can do that. And if you either believe it and do it, or you don't believe it, but the choices on that are all yours. You're the only one that can determine what's going to happen to your health or your lack of health. So we've got this. This is what's going on in our body. And we want to heal. And now, that's in our stomach from today. That's in our colon from yesterday. We have a medical crisis going on all the time. This is why we're sick. This is why everybody we see, go to a potluck and see what they're eating. Go to buffets. Go to all these things. This is what we're putting in. This is the way we're living, and this is why we're the way we are. It's that simple. You want to change it, you got to get this out. That's the first thing you got to do. You got to get this out. Once you start to get this out, you're already on the way to healing, because if your body could live, and this is where this is great, folks, if your body could survive for 35, 45, 50 years or longer on this, if it was able to do that, nobody can tell you that your body can't heal or improve greatly if you give your body what it needs. And get this out. Nobody can tell you. How can they tell you? There's no research on it. Nobody studies it because there's no money in it. It all comes down to this. Big bucks. That's what it all comes down to. There's no money in what I'm about to show you next. But let's look at this family. Let's look at them, and let's look at what we see today. Mom continued, but she's lost her foot. It doesn't stop anything. She still doesn't get it. They're walking her into the restaurant. The daughter, she's got cancer. She's 30-something years old. She's got 2 kids. She's about to lose them. Their life is busy now taking care of her. Now, there are situations where medications will make symptoms go away. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to make you think everything's okay now that you put it in. But that's the end result. Because your liver, your kidneys, your other organs, you see, when you get sick, the reason I was able to live for so long, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes, doing what I did, was because the other organs in my body had so much vitality that they could keep making new lung cells. But I kept doing this, and I wore out the organs that were making lung cells. Once I wore those organs out, now there was nothing supplying new cells. You see, the body will always make the things it needs somewhere else. Why would it make cells in the area that's damaged? See, that's part of the survival mechanism. Let the damaged area be there, but make the cells someplace else. We make white blood cells in the bone. We don't make white blood cells in the blood. If the blood's damaged, we have to have a safe place to make white blood cells. So lung cells are made in different places, and these things are shipped around. But I got to the point where my body was so abused and so toxic that it finally couldn't keep it going. It couldn't make more new cells. When that started to happen, now all I had was my old cells, and I had my body trying to make cells, but they were mutated. We look at scar tissue. Well, scar tissue, you know, we were sick enough we couldn't heal. We needed surgery. Now the body's got a further assault because people's hands have been inside it. And we have to make skin. We have to make ligament and tissue. That's what we have to make it out of. No wonder it looks like scar tissue. It's the best the body could do with what it had to work with. The body didn't make a mistake. The body knew what it was doing the whole time. So now, this is our family. Does this look like people you know? Dad's no longer working. The kid's sick. Mom's limping. Folks, that's it. That's what we have. That's the problem. What's the solution? Because if I leave you now, it wouldn't be right. What's the solution? We got to get this out, and we got to start giving this what it needs. We got to begin to put things in here that we don't understand. We got to stop thinking about vitamins and minerals and everything. They all come from this stuff. So just put this in. Get them all. There's about 450 vitamins they haven't discovered yet. Want to wait for a new vitamin to be discovered? Put that in your body, or do you want to get them all right now? Your choice. People say, I can't afford to eat this way. I don't like vegetables. Hey, I don't like enemas. But we got pH of about 9 right here, folks. Cucumber juice, cucumber. Ever try to chew a vegetable? We chew it until all the juice is out, or a fruit. We don't just swallow it. We chew it. We juice it. We start putting this stuff in. We don't even know what's in here. All different colors. Just throw it in. If you don't like to eat it this way, get a blender. Make a smoothie with it. The body doesn't know what to do with this sugar. It knows what to do with this sugar. Totally different sugars. Start putting this in. We start all of a sudden, we start putting these good things in. We got prunes. We got nuts. We got, things that came from seeds. All of this stuff lived. This is what we were designed. This stuff, everything lives. Think of the first day in the garden. All we would have done, we would have eaten fruit, maybe a few vegetables, a few nuts. This stuff didn't exist. It wasn't even there then. And now you got your legumes. You've got all of these things. Hazelnuts have all your amino acids. And the ones that your body can't make, it has. The ones that don't come in these, your body will make. It's a relationship. They work together. This starts to build the pH, give the body what it needs to recreate health. You may not like to hear this. You already know this. Your innate intelligence has just been asleep. The whole purpose of this is simply to wake it up. You see, that's what happened to me. That's the message I got. And I couldn't believe how simple it was once I got it. And once you get it, you see, that's the nice part of this, is once you get this message, for those of you who do get it, once you get it, nobody can take it away from you. You'll never again be affected by the media. You'll never again be affected by what somebody tells you. You will take responsibility. If you're a mom, you'll take responsibility for your children. You'll be able to help teach your grandchildren. You'll have this information. If you have parents that are suffering out there, because we are the transitional generations, it's gone down each generation, because we got away from everything that was natural to everything that wasn't. So now the only way to go to health is to start to change things. Herbs. These are powerful. Thousands of herbs. Absolutely thousands of them. Milk thistle. The liver loves milk thistle. Hawthorn. Have a hawthorn tree in your yard. The leaves, the berries, the heart loves them. These are things that rebuild arteries. They rebuild brain tissue. They rebuild all these things. They said that, I couldn't create new brain tissue. They said it can't be done. Well, it did it. They said that, when you've got the asbestos in your lung, you can't heal. I don't know, I did it. I got the asbestos around my heart. I can feel it, but it will never get me because I've got so much nutrition going in. I don't care what you have. See, all of us have a chronic degenerative disease. I don't care what yours is. Yours may be diabetes. It might be Alzheimer's. You have a parent that has that. It might be Lyme disease. It might be arthritis. It doesn't matter what it is. The body knows what to do with this stuff. This is the stuff it's waiting for. It's just give it to it. It's not expensive. That's part of the problem. It's not expensive. You can't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on ad campaigns. Some herbalist can't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to tell you that hawthorn is good for your heart. But you start to put this in. You have the mixes. You have countless people out there over many, many years that have tried to get this message out. There was, Cassie's formula, ESSIAC. She was a young nurse in Breckenridge, Canada, that was curing so many people of cancer. And they tried stopping her. There's been countless people that have tried to get this message out. And it's so hard to get out because, for one thing, people don't want to hear it. What did I do? I put these in juice form. I was so sick that my colon, after years and years of this, couldn't absorb this. I had to juice it. I had to take the juices out because it's liquids that our body uses. We liquefy things in our stomach. So the juices, to me, were important. pH, building up the pH of the blood. Barley, wheat, alfalfa grass, the same thing as human blood. The difference between them basically is that human blood has iron, it's red. The juices of these grasses, they're all biblical. But the juices from these grasses have chlorophyll, magnesium, chlorophyll. These alkalize our body. These were designed to be put into our body. Biggest animals on the planet, the largest animals, elephants, giraffes, cows, all eat grasses. Horses, they're magnificent. They're not in the condition we're in. People are going to tell you, well, everything's polluted. The environment's contaminated. There's nothing in there. Well, go to a horse farm and take a look around. Go in the woods. Take a look at deer in the way they're. They're beautiful. Just a squirrel in your backyard. They're not all sick. We're the only ones that are sick. And it's because we don't want to acknowledge this. So it's easier for us to say, there's nothing to that. They're all crazy. There's nothing. Now we have all the colors. We have all the flavors. We have everything we want. But this is addictive. This stuff comes out of laboratories where people test on people to get them addicted to it. As long as we put it in, we're not going to go to health. This is the only way we're going to do it. We're going to get a blood pH of 7.365. If you're over there, you got to head this way. Aunt Rose, you see, she's at a point now where her body has used up all her buffering, which is the bone that helps to keep that pH up. So now her bones are breaking because her teeth are gone, because those are sources for the pH, for alkalinity in the body. So she's used everything up. Now her organs just aren't working. But even at this point, her body will shut down in an organized manner because the body can't make a mistake. It always wants to do the right thing. Give it the right thing, it'll do the right thing. Folks, we're just like this seed. These are 10-year-old seeds. 10-year-old seeds. They sit in these packets, dormant. We can't, they seem dead. They seem like there's nothing going on. But if I take the seed and I put the seed in dirt, I give it some sunlight and I give it some water, something magical is going to happen in the seed. The seed's going to start to come to life. The seed's going to fulfill every promise that God made. The seed is going to know exactly what to do because there's intelligence here. This is innate, inborn intelligence, just like we have in our bodies. These are going to come to life. Roots are going to shoot out. We're going to start to see first growth, first leaf, second leaf, foliage, buds, flowers, fruit. These things have, I've got all types of seeds in here. Each seed has different functions, and they will be what they're supposed to be because of their innate intelligence. When we put this in, you see, at the time of birth, we're no different. We're a seed. We're a seed that grows in a mother's womb. And this seed has an innate intelligence, just like this seed has an innate intelligence. This seed has everything in it to know how to go through its entire life in health. And it will never make a mistake either. And this seed has everything in it to go through every phase of life, whether it's puberty, emotions, old age. Every phase of life is programmed into that seed. That seed wasn't bone. That seed wasn't flesh. It wasn't blood. Just like this seed isn't bark. It isn't flower. It isn't fruit. It's innate intelligence. It's inborn intelligence that's in this seed and in this seed. This seed was designed to give this seed freedom, to give this seed health. This seed sacrifices nothing to give us that. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't lose anything. It fulfills. It's pleasant for us. It gives us beauty all the way through. It's what we're supposed to have. It's what gives us health. This, I would have known in the garden, was not my naturally right food. I'm not saying we can't eat it because it's made out of the same stuff. So yes, we can eat this, and I'm not saying we shouldn't. These are decisions you have to make. I don't want to get into that area. I mean, personally, I think Adam took a bite out of one of these and named it fowl, but that's your choice. You can eat that if you want. But you can't eat this. So if you're having a biblical problem with this presentation, this is not part of that discussion. This isn't about eating meat or not eating meat, eating fish or not eating fish. I don't have the answers to all that. I really don't. But this is the discussion that this is what we should be talking about. If you're in a church, talk to your pastor. They're in a tough position because churches have been built traditionally on food. And if you're in a family and you see people in your family that are sick, bring this information to them. If you get this message, bring it to them. For anybody that wants any other information, I'm going to be keeping an up and going website. The purpose of that website is to have additional training as it develops and gets larger and larger. And that'll be with the help of people like yourselves that get this message and want to become part of delivering this message. I thank you very much. And remember one other thing, folks, before I stop. Think of the fly on the window. It's trying to get to something it can't get to. It buzzes, and it buzzes because it sees something on the other side. That's what we get with the hope of a medication. We think we're going to reach something on the other side. And we walk by that window and we look at the fly and say, it's not in danger. It's frantic, but it's not in danger. If it only turned around and flew the other way, it wouldn't be in harm. And we go by the window 2 days or a day later, and there's the fly upside down dead on the windowsill. See, that's what life is like for me now. Ever since I got this message, I can't understand why people don't get it. And I watch all the people I care about being like that fly on the window, and then I hear they got the cancer, or they have that. I want to introduce you to somebody for a minute. Mike, is your thing on? You on? This is Mike Enos.
I am Mike.
And Mike was one of those kids that's over the 11 years that came with me. And Mike was in a hospital, and he lived in that hospital. And he came to live with me, and I'll let you share you a little bit of it.
I was probably there for about 3 months, and we started juicing. I was in and out of Children's Hospital a lot. We started juicing, and I got better and started riding a bike 25 miles from Sandwich to Wareham.
Yeah, stay here, Mike. Mike was a kid that nobody knew what to do with. Nobody knew what to do with Mike. He was, how long were you with me? 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years. And we went through a lot of stuff. At one point, they wanted to put Mike in a nursing home. That was where he was headed, and we turned that around. Mike's not in perfect health today by any stretch. Mike's got a lot of problems, and Mike knows that a lot of those problems would be a lot better if Mike did a lot more of what he learned at the house. But Mike's gone out into the world, and Mike but his health, but he's not living in a hospital today. He's not living like that today, and that's where Mike was headed. There was a point when Mike's kidneys were no longer working. You remember all that?
Yep.
Okay. His kidneys weren't working anymore. Everything was shutting down. His doctor told me he had the insides because of those diseases. The diabetes was severe and the Addison's disease was severe. There was absolutely no hope for Mike. And Mike had the body of an 80-year-old man inside at the time, is what I was told.
Yep.
You remember all that?
Yep.
Okay. I don't care what you have. I don't care where you have it. It doesn't matter. This body is a phenomenal machine, and it can survive anything if it gets what it needs. So with that, I thank you, and God bless you. That's it.